Today, I'm sitting down with one of my closest friends, Katie Calder. We woke up around the same time in 2016. So we've kind of been walking each other along this path, and it's been such a gift. So, welcome, Katie.
Carlin, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad that you're our first guest sharing their story.
It makes a lot of sense.
So, take us back to where everything started to shift. Who were you before your awakening happened?
Yeah. Well, when I was around 7 years old, when I learned, or 6 or 7, when I learned that Santa Claus wasn't real, I was like very mystical as a child. It was very mystical. I was always praying to whatever, God, spirits, things. I felt very tapped into the unseen. And then it was a big deal. And I feel that this is a big deal for a lot of kids when they learn that some sort of magical construct that they were told was real wasn't. That kind of shattered all illusions of God, the divine, the unseen being real. I felt super, super lied to. And so I remember how big of an event that was when Santa Claus wasn't real. I was like, the Easter Bunny isn't real. The Tooth Fairy isn't real. God isn't real. Jesus isn't real. Like they lied to me and none of these things are real. And that was a very significant moment I felt like shifting out of a very magical state of reality as a small child that had a very vast creative and just unseen world to kind of being like, this realm, this world is just what I see. Like I shifted my perspective to not being hopeful of the divine and to being very upset living in just like the matrixy world. And so from like 7 to probably like 22, I would say 21, I kind of did the normal things. I was a really good athlete. I was a competitive diver and lacrosse player and soccer player and filled a lot of my time with sports. I was a really high achiever academically. I like did the things that people said would lead you to success, happiness, whatever. Like I always had close friends, but I remember being a pretty like depressive child, pretty depressive, was diagnosed ADHD very, very young, felt like I needed to navigate systems that didn't really fit me, but worked really hard to navigate them. Chose for myself to be prescribed with Adderall when I was like 12 because I was like, there's no way I can there's no way I can be in these systems without being medicated in some way, without like forcing my brain to operate in a way that it wasn't. And so I remember the first time that I went on stimulant medication was when I was like 8 years old. I went on for 2 weeks. My mom was like, no way, this is not
Eight
my
years
emotion.
old.
8 years old. Yeah. I had a teacher that was like, she's disruptive in class. She's disruptive in class and she's really smart, but she can't sit still and whatever. And so I was prescribed stimulants and Concerta or something at 8, but I think I was just emotionally a terror. And so I then electively chose to go back on medication later until I was like 24, 25 years old. Which that's a whole nother thing about like, controlling children energetically or um putting diagnoses on what I'd like to say is just individuation or creative innovation, individuation, outside the box thinkers, perceivers, energetic movers. So anyways, I continued. I did really well in high school. I went to a really good college. I was like, I would say I was super type A back then and was just like, okay, these are the things that people say are going to make me happy. I'm going to do them. I'm going to get really good grades and I'm going to get into a top software firm post college. And when I graduated, interesting thing is I was always pretty superstitious and mystical. I really started studying astrology and things around, I think my later years of high school. I was really intrigued, but it wasn't more for fun. But I also was still always retained this kind of like mystical, superstitious, very artistic sensibility to me. But then I graduated college in 2016 and I went to school in St. Louis and I moved to Chicago, to start working for a software company. And again, my life looked really good on paper. Like I had a bunch of friends who had moved there. Like was fully self-sourced. I had done a lot of I had done the things, and I had a total crash. I had a total like health crash. I was super miserable. My depression got really, really bad. And I remember I kind of just like randomly got a ping. I was practicing yoga or exercising or whatever on the side, but I was like, you got to sign up for a yoga teacher training. And I wasn't necessarily doing any of that then, but I was like, okay, I'm going to invest in a yoga teacher training. And around that same time, so this was like the end of 2016, my health was, I was living in a really black moldy place. Like the place that I moved into in Chicago was literally leaking black. Like I didn't know anything about mold, and that's been a very kind of intense part of my journey for the past 10 years. But I think I probably still have pictures. It was like bubbles all around my room of this, like the wall just caving in, and it leaked black mold into my place, like all over all my stuff, all
Oh
over my.
my gosh.
No, I kept trying to get the landlord. The landlord was, it was a whole thing. I didn't realize how bad it was though. And I kind of think, and I feel that this is there's a very like deep consciousness of mold, an entity to mold, kind of intersection of a lot of people's spiritual awakening paths with like health, like debilitating health issues. That's been a huge part of my journey for the past, I would say, decade. Longer, actually, probably since I was much younger. But I started breaking and my whole body was covered with this like bumpy rash. I felt like I was going crazy. I felt like my roommate was going crazy. It was a really hard time. And I started yoga teacher training. And at the same time, I was listening to all these spiritual development podcasts. It's funny. I'm like trying to remember. It was such an intense time and there was so much happening at once. And then I had a spontaneous sight opening.
Wow.
I was like, connecting to my breath. I felt like for the first time in yoga, I was listening to all of these kind of esoteric podcasts, people who are connected to beings, interdimensional beings beyond this realm. I was starting like signs and synchronicities, and this like weird, really weird stuff started to happen that I was like, I'm not making this up. Like my day-to-day life, even at my day job, my corporate job, it was like really interesting, weird encounters were happening, connections were happening. And I remember I was listening to, I was introduced to like shamanic work for the first time via podcast and then via my own study. I started diving much deeper into astrology at the time as well and started learning all of my planets and everything kind of on the much deeper level, not just pop astrology, but much deeper astrology, and started listening to tons of astrology podcasts. Teachers started showing up. But the awakening thing that happened, I literally was staring, and granted too, I was not connected or surrounded by any spiritual community. I was living a very matrixy life, very heavy. I was never much of a drinker, but very heavy drinking culture. Very much like, we go to the bar, sports games are on, and it felt really, really empty. So I lead all of that up to the actual beginning awakening part. I was in my bathroom staring at myself in the mirror. And granted, I was totally sober. I was completely sober. I really did not participate in any drug, psychedelics, plant medicines. The first time I had mushrooms was with you when I was like,
No way.
yeah, I remember that first time when I was like 25, 26.
Wait,
I was
that's
way
right. At
late. Yeah.
Stacey's.
Yeah, I didn't touch, there was nothing external other than maybe the mold and maybe the cosmic timing, because it seems like so many 2012 and then 2016 was a really, really big time that the veil opened for many. So I keep building this up, but I'm staring at myself in the mirror, and I swear the veil just cracks. And it was like it was like, I don't even know if it's past lives, concurrent lives, like beings and things that I was connected to, but it was just like the reality started to fractal, and the nature of my reality suddenly opened, and it was kind of like, and it still is like this all the time. It's like, it's very translucent, but it was almost like I started to see the concurrent realms that were going on within my matter, within my three-dimensional form, and then all of the parts that we are also navigating and gestalting with all the time. And so it, and whenever whenever people come to me and um or try to understand clairvoyance or try to understand sight initiations, it's not necessarily something I don't know if it's something you can turn on. I think it's something that everyone has access to, but I think depending on the way that information processes best for you, you're going to have an easier access point to one of the senses opening more than the other. So you might be very sensory, and feeling might be the initial way that a multidimensional perception comes to you. You might hear messages and have like drops of clairaudience. Mine has always been my first two. Again, we all have all of the clairs and more than we even know, perceptual abilities that are beyond this physical 3D reality. But the ones that opened for me were clear knowing, claircognizance, and clairvoyance, clear sight. And so my reality, if it was very, very lonely in the beginning, because I was like, one, am I going crazy? And I knew I wasn't, but I was also like, this is a very big departure from, you know, reality or the friendship groups or the life that I have carved up into this point. And yet it felt like the most important and the most exciting and just the most real. It was like the very real pull of, okay, and now you're doing this. Now you're seeking knowledge and wisdom and teachers. I wasn't even seeking. It was like just things started showing up to me. Teachers started showing up to me. Friends started showing up to me who were going through similar experiences. But again, it was like something that I couldn't turn off. It was all of a sudden, right from 7, I was like, okay, God doesn't exist. And I was like, I didn't use the word God at the time, the divine, the universe, source, unseen. But I pretty instantly became aware of multidimensional reality, of the fact that this reality isn't just confined to this density, that energy is very, very real, that the energetic medicine, subtle realms, and then just like concurrent realms were very much existing. I became very aware of the nature of, and it'd be interesting to talk more about this with you, but past lives, which aren't necessarily even past lives, if we move beyond the linear nature of time that helps us as three-dimensional beings in this form, at least, understand our progression, but it's not actually the nature of the way that time exists. I started just being aware of like time is not like the construct of time started morphing and merging and shifting. And so I found myself, just in this moment of like, help, like this is all happening. And if I was to tell normal people or, matrixy people in my life, which again, everyone has access to this, but they would be like, you're crazy. And so somehow, and as the nature of like life unfolds to match your reality, as that goes, beings and soul friends and souls, not using that word lightly, but like soul family and teachers, and just life started opening and presenting matches to me of this new reality, you being one of the very, 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 very first ones. So Carlin and I connected. It was I think it was the beginning of 2017.
I think so.
Maybe when we connected, or like mid 2017. And I remember seeing you on the internet. I think we just started texting on the internet because you weren't even saying this stuff, but I just was like, oh, she knows. Like there is this knowing, and then we have developed a deep, deep, deep friendship over the past 9 years now, or 8 or 9 years. But I started meeting these matches in my life, and these teachers started presenting, and I started doing, just deep, 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 deep inquiry, deep, deep, deep inquiry on like who I actually was, what the true nature, which is a constant life journey, right? It's not like Katie is this thing, but it's more like unchaining myself from the constructs of whatever limitations my prior reality that I was forcing myself in gave me, and I started living in this wasn't even started. It just was forced upon me in some ways. It was like, you don't see, and then you see. And then because of the sight opening, I navigated or brought things in or started studying in the realms of the unseen, in the realms of energetics, in the realms of cosmology, in the realms of both ancient and modern practices that are landed and grounded in the understanding that there is far more than our material reality, and that our matter, that our material reality is highly influenced by the nature of how things, of how planets, of how unseen realms are pulling at us at any given
Yeah.
moment. So that's kind of a long and also as condensed as possible initiation of what really the past 10 years have been incredibly eventful.
Yeah.
I would say anyone, I know you've spoken about this and we'll speak about it more, but when you open to more, when you expand your capacity, especially in unseen realms, typically, the construct of a dark night of the soul is
Mm.
spoken about a lot. And I would say my opening really went hand in hand with a dark night of the soul, which is a reckoning of like, now that I see and have access to these things, I'm not even searching for the knowledge. It's like landed, and now my reality is mirroring that. There's a grief process of like a lot of the reality that in which I was living. It just isn't, it's not like you can just put the blinders back over your eyes after that opening happens. So
Once you
again,
see, you can't unsee.
yeah, and that was really hard for me. Like, it was really hard, especially in not having community. Now it's there's just no option other than this is, like, the way that I navigate, and pretty much all of my close ones that surround me also understand the nature of this, which is such a gift. But again, I think it's really, really lonely for most at the beginning. Maybe not all, but for most who have that intensive shifts without support structures or integration allies, it can be a lot, but it carves you, and it carves your path to like strengthen you with tools and with true allies that are going to walk with you through life.
Yeah, and that makes me wonder because all of our awakening paths or however we come to see through the veil is so unique.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it has to happen. One way you could look at it is that it has to happen alone because you can't compare your experience to anyone else.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be diluted. It really needs to be so authentically just what is coming to you. And I think that sometimes, like you're talking about, you can feel like you're going insane in the beginning. Because, like,
Totally.
what?
Yeah.
Even if you have, always felt like there was more to life, or if you've looked into things like astrology, when it actually cracks open, it is indescribable. Can you take us like,
Indescribable.
what was that like when you were looking in the mirror? Do you remember how it felt when
Yeah.
yeah, tell us.
Yeah, I was in the middle of I was living alone. I had a couple mini ones, but this really big opening, because it was like I saw faces through faces. Like, it was almost like I dissolved, and my sight to be able to see and also perceive others, like truth. I would say truth in what's before me. And I want to be not careful, but cautious in that it's not like, it wasn't necessarily like other beings working through people. It was just like energetic truth. Like, there was a dissolve of density in my reality. So I could see energetic truth.
And that could show up in like some people, because I remember one of the first times that you we did soul gazing sometimes.
Yeah, we
And
did.
the way that it felt like you were seeing faces morph, and I think when people really get into soul gazing, which it sounds so silly, but when you do it, it's
Yeah.
like, "My gosh, the things that can happen if you let your eyes relax and just detach from the physical expression that's right in front of you, the
Yeah.
things that can begin to show up." And so I could see your face morphing somewhat as well, but it really does feel like you see it on a different level. And your sight, is it more so eyes open, eyes closed? Is it both? What's that like?
It's both. It's all the time. It's interesting too. I love that you brought, because there's so many things that then now to me, I'm like, feels kind of like contrived, or, you know, but it was a huge part, like, which, yeah, I'm like, I have a million thoughts at once right now that are organizing around this. I want to start with this moment. I am more cautious about looking people directly in the eyes now
Mm.
than I was. And
Say more
so
about that.
Yeah, so and I don't think we should have any fear, or it's not even like as a protective thing, but just I was so eager to like strengthen these gifts that I was like, I want to practice all the time. I want to practice seeing whatever. And now I'm more, I don't want to see everything. I don't want to, it's a lot of information. If you've cracked and then are living in this way all the time, it's a lot of information. It's like anything, you don't want to, yeah, you're not meant to like be close with everyone in this reality. You're not meant to work with everyone or work on everyone. You're not meant to. So I say that in that and I kind of forget neurodivergence all over the place. The question was, how was that? How is that for you? What is that experience?
Yeah, that, and also now I have another question.
Yeah.
In how do you control it? How do you like not allow all of that to be seen? Is it just a matter of intention? Is there
Yeah.
something physical that you do? Is it just not looking directly, not, you can look someone in the eye and then you can go in with
Yeah,
someone.
yeah, yeah. It's super, it's almost like I even see it now. I often like look up when I'm receiving information or translating because it's like in order to hear what I want to say, it's like almost too much information. Sometimes reading someone else's energy body or looking into someone else's eyes or hearing the unspoken conversation that's going on to someone. How do I work with it? I think the best way to answer it is just like I've done the opposite. So when about 10 years ago when I was first, and you were so a part of so many of my, I've had so many journeys in the past 10 years and so many different like interesting teachers, allies, beings that have shown up. But when I was first honing in my connection to my intuition, my connection to my gifts, where all of us have unique and individuated gifts that only we have, that only we are gifted with in this reality. And in the beginning I was working with a lot of mentors who were going really, really far out. And so a lot of my like this is maybe answering this question, but this is also maybe taking it in a different direction. A lot of what my sight was opening to was the nature that like we're not the only beings in these realities. And so there was a lot of opening to interdimensional beings. And I want to say this with saying that like it started with beings coming without having a name. It was like beings came and I didn't know what they were. And then immediately a teacher who knew what they were would show up. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm seeing. Or a picture would show up. And again, this was a very different, I feel like there's so much information, even just like AI in the past couple of years has increased the amount of information of like star seeds and stuff like that, like star beings. That wasn't like a hot topic in the interwebs. Like it wasn't like a cool
No.
thing. Like,
Right,
so
right.
I am also super careful because it feels like some of these things have become really trendy in the past years. And I wasn't like, oh my goodness, I'm a starseed. That wasn't my MO, but that was something that was really showing up was like, Lemurian timelines, Atlantean timelines were very, very dominantly showing themselves to me. I had no idea what it was, but I was having these deep visions and meditation, especially of Atlantis and the fall of Atlantis. And I was like, what is this that I'm seeing? Again, all of this is totally sober and not connected to like a teacher bringing this up to me. And so a lot of my sight or a lot of what I was seeing in other people, especially those matches, like you, for example, was just like similar connection points. Like you were working with a lot of different, of course, but like similar connection points of ancient or multidimensional knowledge. And that was revealing itself to me. And so the like, how am I working with that now? A lot of my initial sight opening and intuitive opening was like going really, really far out, was finally feeling like I had a connection to something that made Earth make more sense. And this is what
Yeah.
I hear from a lot of people who are connecting intergalactically. There's like this homesickness. There's this like connection to other realms that finally makes Earth make sense. So that was very much like 10 years ago, the beginning of my journey. And did a lot of dream work, and I worked with a lot of mentors or just dream work, like working very deep, having very intense dreams, opening myself, praying over my dream realms, saying like, benevolent beings at the highest light, you're allowed to work on me. I was getting worked in my sleep, like insane amounts. I didn't have really good energetic boundaries. I was like show me the things. Like, this is so fun. My site's opening. This is so fun. And that was really like, I would say from like 2017 to 2020, I was doing a lot of that, and my body could not handle it. I was feeling really sick, really depleted, really inflamed, exhausted. I felt like when I woke up in the beginning of the morning, I was traveling like so far. And I had this one mentor that was saying, "Oh, you're like hovering over your soul mold. Like your soul, you're not coming back into your body. You're traveling so far that you're not coming back into your body." It's so funny. I even forget that I know the initial questions about sight, but this feels important in some way or
No,
another.
this is perfect. Let's
Um,
go with it.
and yeah, so just initial like opening, and then how did I navigate it? I don't think super well, but what do you learn through trial and error, right? You learn through practice. And so around, 2020 to 2022, where the earth went through a lot of people woke up in those years. I would say a lot of people had intense initiations of realizing that, the matrix, and I don't want to make anything completely right or wrong because it's just not what I believe. I don't think that any one thing is all bad, all good, but a lot of people had big openings then. Those were years where I really took a lot of time to like land back into my physical body. I really started realizing that like being so open and in the realms was not where I was supposed to be all the time. And I started integrating all of the tools, sharing the tools, integrating my site in containers, not having it open all the time, and definitely not having my dream realms open all the time. That was something that I like really learned to put boundaries around and lock up and like use in specific ways, but understanding like my health really took such a toll. Something that I've dealt with really intensely for the past, since I was 12 years old, actually, are really intense chronic migraines. And they're for a number of reasons, but I think one of them is because of just like the sheer amount of information and the amount of electricity. And so something that I haven't fully healed, that I will in this lifetime, but that I'm also aware of, like having more energetic boundaries and having supporting my physical body and its sensitivity. But I bring it to now in how do I work with sight? How do I have boundaries? How do I work with it in day-to-day life? And this is something that I hear a lot with intuitives, medical intuitives, people, mediums, people who are really working in between the realms. There is often a challenge with their physical body challenges, challenges with the amount of electricity or the amount of other material that's not just matter that's coming in. And one of the things that has really finally landed in the past years, I would say, particularly in the past 3 years, is like I'm serving an earth mission, right? Like I'm here on earth right now. Like Katie has chosen to be in this body. And so I'm careful, and I'm much more, I understand the importance of integration, and it doesn't excite me to like constantly blast out all the time. Like in the beginning, it was like the blasting far and wide was just made everything make sense. And even when I started working with, and again, it's more rare that I work in ceremony with like master plant allies. That's not my path in this life. It's not my specific area of study or needed, but I listen to when I'm meant to work, like with ayahuasca, with mushrooms, with psychedelic allies. And the experience that I've had once I started opening in those realms was just like a confirmation of what I had already opened to. It wasn't like I needed to do this in order to get an opening. But what I've learned again and again is my system is really sensitive to big peak experiences, and I don't need that. And so the place now with my site is like, it's not open all the time. And for like, I'm not meant to be walking down the street and just like giving messages out all the time or sharing or tuning in. There's like energetic boundaries. Like you're not meant to tune into everyone's systems. You're not meant to see into everything. And as I've cultivated deeper boundaries in all of my relationships, in harmonizing my relationships better, in going through a lot of lessons in the past 10 years, my physical body has started to not only heal, but be able to sustain consistent states of lucidity in more consistent ways. And so what I'd realized was when I was energetically drained or using my resources, like all of us do, this could be in any ways, like you're working too hard, you're in toxic relationships, you're whatever, like just very mundane things can inhibit your connection to your sight because you're not listening and you're not protecting it and you're not protecting and nurturing your body. What I've learned is it's available at all times now, but my like the most important thing, especially in the past year, after a pretty deep health crash last year, has been like really tending to the mundane physical body health things, and that being the most important stabilizing force here for multidimensional realms. So I'm like, I can't my visionary capacities or gifts or spiritual awakening gifts are directly connected here to my physical health, to my physical well-being, to how much I'm tending to this physical reality. So it's really interesting. In the past, I would say couple years, the past 10 years have been so many different phases, but the past couple years there's been such a return to earth and like a commitment to being on earth and to knowing that like spirit and the divine is not just found in certain communities or in certain ways of praying or like exclusive. I think we're seeing a lot of separation of like, it's only found in the church or it's only found in these, you know, ceremonial settings and I'm so clear that like there isn't everything has a connection to spirit and there's ways that we can really listen to how we're meant to serve as this. And so my final thing I'll say, because just rambled in so many different ways, but like that the journey trajectory of like being really matrixy and like being able to achieve in the matrix to then opening up, like really not believing in God, to then be like, whoa, God, the divine, the unseen is real. And then the past 10 years have been a journey of like going into a lot of different communities that say they have the answer or that pray in a certain way or that connect to spirit in a certain way. And in the past, I would say year or two, I've really come back to, I would say like being a lot more normal and like my my unique blueprint, it has an ability to bring the multidimensional to the matrix, to everyday life, which I think is a very, very important thing to happen. And so my site, how have I created boundaries? I don't even know if my final thing I'll say about this all is I think that many people who have spiritual awakenings, like you can have guides and teachers and learn tools and it's important to tune into like whose energy you really resonate with and whose experience or who's a match to support you in that. But I also do kind of believe we need to have certain cycles of it going through our own shit and of going through our own challenges or of getting it wrong in order to support our capacity. And so I do kind of believe that everyone who is on a spiritual opening path or who has this open within them is going to have experience of like not having good boundaries. Is going to have experience of expansion that then right after it has big contractive moments. And that's very much what a ton of my journey in just expanding my physical capacity to hold more has been. And I'm sure will continue to be. I'll have more expansions and then contractions and then expansions again.
Yeah. Do you think, just thinking back to the beginning when, I mean, it was so fun. It was so
So
fun to be
fun.
going to like
So
these other
fun.
dimensions and be encountering
Yeah.
other beings or other just this radical cosmic energy and feel so connected to the galactic. And obviously we've matured now and that it's just a little bit different. Do you think that being in that state for however long it was, doesn't really matter, but do you think that that served a purpose? If so, what do you think that purpose was?
Yeah. I think it totally served a purpose. I fully feel like the purpose is still unveiling itself. It's
Mm.
really interesting because, and I know I'm interested in how you're feeling. I know some of the ways that you're feeling, but I feel very similar. The past 10, we go in numerological 9-year cycles. And 2016 and 2017 went from a 9-year to a 1 year, starting a new cycle. Then 2025 to 2026 went from a 9-year and now we're in a 1 year again. I feel so similarly in a very different, it's almost like, a graduation energy of a different perspective, but so similarly this year to so much of what was happening in 2017, right? Like
Totally.
And it's interesting because I think a lot of what, especially 2022 through 2024, I was very in study with earth-based spirituality practices, and um, it was just a part of, it was a 3-year cycle that was very intense, but very important, I think, for my spiritual maturation. But I will say at the same time that 2022 through 2024, much more earthen experience of my spirituality, there was a disconnect from this part that has been a really, really important. Like it's a really, really important part, my connection to our multidimensional universe. And it almost felt like that was kind of like, I don't know, looked down upon, but just the communities that surrounded myself with, it was much less connected to aliens, interdimensional
Galactic.
beings, galactic, and my connection to the galactic was really important, very, very important, and received, as I know you like have received a lot of information that really supports. Again, not here to live there all the time, here to be human. Now it's such an interesting time. I mean, in so many ancient and more modern modalities, we're in such an interesting time on the planet. It's said that this is the time where the photon bands are in the same position as the fall of Atlantis, which, if anyone knows the history mythology, has experience with sight in Atlantean realms. Very much what happened was this split of manipulating. They had incredible technology of super, super quick manifestation ability of basically using frequency, using sound, using light, using crystal grade technology to create very, very quickly. The mythos around it is said that, the scientists or those that were working with the technology manipulated it for power, for personal gain, for a variety of reasons, and it flooded Atlantis and it led to the flood of Earth. Now, what's really, really interesting with that also, compounded with like being in the darkest age of the Kali Yuga, compounded with being at the beginning parts of the Aquarian Age, this age of massive technological innovation, which we're really shifting over the next 200, 300 years into the full Aquarian Age, out of the Piscean Age, which Piscean Age, past 2,000 years, is like age of distortion, rise of Christianity, rise of religion holding the power, like religious institutions holding the power over connection to God, connection to the divine. And then also the system that has been my deepest tool over the past years. We are moving into a new 400-year cycle next year in human design. We go through these 400-year background frequency cycles, and the one we're moving into in February 2027 is called the Cross of the Sleeping Phoenix. In the past 400 years, we've been in what's called the Cross of Planning, and the Cross of Planning is all about tribal bonds. It's like industrial revolution, tribal bonds made and broken, kind of like agreeing to put yourself into societal institutions that may or may not support the whole. We are now at that last, like less than a year away of moving into the Cross of the Sleeping Phoenix, which is all about individuation, which is all about you living your individual part of, like, the way that I see it is like, you will not thrive by forcing yourself as a star peg into a round hole of these institutions that are not actually here to serve your unique gifts. And that can be really threatening to those who rely on some sort of external structure to give them safety. I think it's going to really, really, really disrupt a lot. And I bring this in because all of the other, prophecies of this time are also, and we're seeing it in real time. It's like the information age. It's like AI is not going away. No matter how much we want to stop it, it is only going to rapidly increase on the planet. Jobs are going to go, like the jobs that you thought you could rely on, like technology is going to not only take them over. And again, I don't say any of this out of fear. I actually see it as a positive, everything as an expansion to more of human potential. But like the technology that I fully believe this is going to be the most valuable resource on the planet is your human technology, is understanding this unique human vehicle, your unique connections to energetic connections, because the outside world is going to start moving so quickly with the technology that we're not going to necessarily know. It's going to be a little bit hard to see. But what's not going to be hard to see and what cannot be replicated is your individual blueprint, is your individual technologies, your unique one in a trillion, multiple trillions opportunity to live as Carlin in this lifetime, to live as Katie in this lifetime. So that to answer like, what do I think the purpose was? Well, I think the purpose of being blasted open out of the matrix was I was so forced to be in deep study of like, I am not any of the labels or any of the achievements or any of the accomplishments that I thought were going to like form some sort of identity around me. And I was so stripped and it forced me into, not because I ever wanted to be like a human design teacher or an astrologer, like they were just the tools, human design, especially human design, astrology, Western, I use Western tropical astrology, and then gene keys, along with like studying in different shamanic lineages and energy medicine techniques and technologies. Those really cast this blueprint of recognition of like, whoa, that is how I operate in this world, or the connections to multidimensional beings and things like that. Like that really, 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 really helped me understand like the vaster multidimensional understanding of who I came to be here. And so it's interesting, and we've talked about this so many times. There's been so many standstills in the past decades. There have been so many really, like that initial blast was so amazing. And then I felt like the past year have been like a lot of challenge. It's been like a
Extremely, it's
lot of,
been
it's been brutal. And
incredibly painful.
you've been the closest. Like, I think Carlin and I have clocked more like FaceTime and call hours than anyone in my life, like over
Yeah.
the past decade, truly, which is such a gift. And many of the cycles that we've gone through have the brutal the amazing cycles, but like really brutal, brutal big teaching moments have been done in different ways, but side by side. And so the answer of like what the purpose is, I truly believe that the purpose is revealing itself in real time and will continue to through the rest of my life. But this is an incredibly exciting time to be on the planet. And I kind of feel like the tools and the unraveling and the deconditioning is serving my site to know how I'm meant to serve. I very much feel like there's about to be, and about could be in the next month, it could be in the next years, but given where the planets are, I'm not surprised at all. I will not be surprised at all if suddenly I see like something shows up and I'm like, oh, that's why I've been training for these things. That's why I've been whatever. But I say that to say that like there has felt like there's been a big standstill in the past years. And I think that's been important. And that's been for many that I've talked to, but for the first time, really since like 2017, 2018, 2020 was a big one as well, but 2017, 2018, I feel this flood of energy in preparation to move towards how I can be an individual support, like how I can uniquely use my gifts to individually support where I'm needed in the collective.
Yeah. Yeah. It does feel like there's a re-emphasis being put on service.
Yeah.
And it feels like in the beginning, I love what you said, because being so open, having such deep experiences in such a broad sense, it almost creates, which sounds weird, but it creates almost a grounding. And like, I can handle
Yeah.
this because I understand. I understand the bigger picture. I understand that, at least this is how it feels for me, like so much more than human. We are so much more than this body and this personality. And it just, it shapes everything.
Hmm.
It's, and we always knew that there was more to this life, and then to be blasted open to it. And then going into, when was it when everything felt like it shut off? Like 2021,
Oh my goodness.
2,
2023 was
20.
2021, we've had a couple, but like 2020, there was a lot. And then 2021 was weird. 2022, there was a lot of, there's a lot of external life shifts, I know for both of us and for many. Then 2024 and 2025, like last 2 years, were some, pulling our spirit free
Yeah.
from some things. And then I feel like in the past couple months, a lot has moved in ways that are in ways that I remember and I recall, oh, I know what's happening right now. Like the puzzle pieces are moving, I'm being put in new places, and this is an interesting time to just listen and keep my eyes open.
Yeah. So I'm curious to get your thoughts for anyone else that, had maybe been awake and then sometime after COVID. I don't think it was COVID related. I think it was, yeah, it was just the later
Yeah.
2022-ish,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it felt kind of like the connection was cut off.
Yeah.
I I remember feeling like, "Oh my god, I'm only human again." Like, something happened where it shut off, but now it almost feels like that was for a purpose that we could really, really connect in with here and
Yeah.
really see all. Because during that period, it felt like we both of us were able to see all the ways that we were giving away our power,
Yep.
all the ways that we were still attached to other things, and it was brutal, it was
Brutal.
so painful, and we had to, like, reclaim all aspects of us in this realm
Yeah.
on Earth in order to really live out the mission that we're here to do, and we're stepping more and more into it now as we're preparing for this massive shift that is happening in 2027.
Yeah. It was really, I mean, it just felt very dense. It's like
Yeah.
really dense. Every day felt really hard. Physically, it felt really hard. Like soul and body experience felt really, really hard. I don't know. I'm wondering if you think you could have rushed it because it's so interesting to me always to watch cosmic timing and watch where the planets are. In that there was a part of my soul, like in the experience of deep pain or disconnection, like that felt really not. I don't even know if I would say scary, but there was some sort of fear of like, I hope that this part of me will come back, this part that moves really quick, or this part that I felt that the disconnect felt challenging, felt really, really challenging and a little bit scary. But there was always a part of me in that process that knew it wasn't going to be forever, but also couldn't rush it, which was also a little bit of like being in being in a state of disconnection or being in a state of I know this isn't my how I'm supposed to be operating or I feel disconnected from my power. There was a part of me within it and a part of me now that is very, very clear that I couldn't have rushed that timing, that I needed to fully be in that process of whoa, disconnection or whatever we want to call it. And I'm wondering if, yeah, if you think that you could have shifted that any quicker or done
Yeah.
anything to move out of it.
I think, there were times where I feel like maybe I could have shifted sooner, but I think that knowing my soul or knowing my human, I should say, she's gotta get insanely uncomfortable and
Uncomfortable,
to, like,
yeah.
the deepest depths of pain in order to shift, and I feel like this last shift that both of us went through, slightly different situations,
Yeah.
but ultimately the same reclamation of ourself
Yeah.
and not apologizing for who we were, never making ourselves small again. I think I had to get to like the size of an ant and then be like, just right before I was about to
Yeah.
disintegrate, be like, no,
Oof.
no, I'm not doing that. And honestly, if reincarnation is real, which I feel like it is in some way, I don't want to have to give up on this life and then have to come back and do it again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Even if
yeah.
that's not real, I'm not taking that risk.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I don't wanna have to go through the lessons that I've gone through just to, like, start over because I gave up. Like, no, no, no. We're
totally.
doing it in this life right now. Also, it makes for a great story, but I have gotten out of it any sooner? It's interesting thinking about divine timing.
Mm, mm,
I think getting that to that low point made a big difference in me in that I will never go back.
yeah,
I know that I will never compromise myself again. If I had left sooner, maybe I would
like,
be less committed to following through no matter how scary or whatever it is that I come up against because I know that I can't go back to that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
that's the ultimate purpose.
There was, like, a commitment, like, it got so yeah, that to an ant size, there was, like, an energetic understanding of, "Oh, I know the sensation of that thing now enough times that I'm never going back." Like, I know that you made such big commitments to self and same, that I actually don't think a pattern it's almost like the pattern needed to, like, really have a final boss
Mm,
experience to then not to complete and something that I've found really, really and this is with anyone that I work with too, the path if you're in the healing arts or supportive, this type of supportive, intuitive work in any way and supporting people to get free. The ones I trust have been through similar experiences, have really gone through disconnection to reconnect, not over and over and over again forever, perpetuating that pattern, but what I found in the past year or 2 years, I mean, past decade, so many of my initiations are the ones that I'm here to support as well. Like, I need the embodied actual like, energetic experience to be able to support other people going through the same thing. And oftentimes, so many of the clients that I'm serving are currently going through something that I've just graduated from.
Mm,
Like my initiations and my dark nights or my big challenges become my medicine. Not when I'm still dealing with the same thing, but once I've actually looped out of whatever the thing is that I was going through, I'll get an influx of people who are going through that thing. It's
yeah.
kind of crazy because it'll just be such clockwork. And I often think, and I think you've seen this as well, but there's like a going through something, and then there's always a ripple in consciousness of like people going through we cycle, individually, we have our individual cycles, but then collective has big cycles. And so a lot of the material that many people are moving through tend to happen not so far apart, which is, to me, it's kind of comforting.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that as well. It's like in order to actually help people through something, you gotta live it yourself.
Totally.
That's how you can best speak to it. That's how you can best understand it. And I also think that when we experience the depth of pain of being human and that
Mm.
just disconnection, it gives us such a deeper sense of compassion for all of humanity,
Yeah.
for really understanding what it is to be human. And
Mm.
it is challenging. It's hard. Even if you even if you know the love of the divine and unconditional love, even if you know the truth, what you feel like is the truth or this deeper nature of reality, it doesn't make the pain less painful.
No.
It just frames it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all gonna have human experiences. I think that's one of the misperceptions that I've like I don't know if there's like if humanity has a consistent experience of just like being good or like being above the challenge or not experiencing hardship. Like I don't actually think that that's human or that's what we're here to do, but I do believe there's an ability to ride much easier, to like surf the waves way more. Like the best way I always describe it is like this: when this was my capacity, this thing was the end of the world. Like would have
Mm,
taken me out. But now that my capacity's here, that thing that used to be the end of the world, it shows up. It doesn't not show up. It shows up, but it just doesn't impact me. Like when I was here, that thing showed up and it would take me out for days. Now when I'm here, that thing, that end of the world thing, I move through it. It's easy. It's not the end of the world. This thing though, this thing might take me out.
yeah.
But then it's not going to when I'm here. So I'm like, I think the challenges and the opportunities still come. We just have a like larger capacity, larger tool set, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to see. I know you see it all the time, right? Like it's like a test or a challenge or a thing will come in. You're like, whoa, that thing used to be so hard, and now it doesn't even impact at all. It's just another day.
Yeah. And those patterns that we have, they're gonna keep coming up.
So
Maybe at some point they'll stop, but
yeah,
each time it does, it gets a little bit easier. And I think it's easy to feel like if the pattern shows up again that you've done something wrong.
yeah.
And that's not the case.
No,
You're just rewiring that portion of you that perceives that type of thing or that draws in that sort of thing, if we want to say
yeah.
it that way.
Yeah. It can't, eventually though, it can't hook you at all. It can't get in. And then you start realizing like it's so cool to see how many patterns are actually just they're not there anymore. They're not a part of my reality that were for so long. And I think it's cool. It's so cool being human and watching cycles and watching patterns and watching growth.
If you could distill the knowing that change that created this change, what would you say that is?
Energy, like so contrived in some ways, but like everything is energy, everything is frequency, everything is impacted, or matter is impacted by the unseen world. Matter is impacted by our thoughts, matter is impacted by our emotions, matter is impacted, and by matter I mean like our beings, our bodies, our physical form is impacted by the electromagnetics of other people. But that's just like energy, and we are human circuit boards that are influenced by everything unseen and seen on earth, but also by our larger cosmology, by the way that the stars pull on us as well. That awareness And also that deep study, not that I've needed to prove it, but it just gets proven over and over and over again. And I always want to say that, like, I'm actually really not attached to my schemas and heuristics that have helped make my life make sense. If someone presents an argument or an opinion or a modality that is better than mine, like, gone with the wind will mine be. But the tools, the external tools like human design, like astrology, like um, just larger understandings of how energy works have totally shifted how I perceive life and how I play, like how I video game with this life. And yeah, I hope to continue to support other people in their individuation of knowing that too, is knowing that they're unique energetic circuit boards. They have a unique wiring, and through understanding and really working and know self-knowledge of that wiring, they get to play in this reality in a way that feels really, really them.
Yeah. So if you had one message, I think that leads into this perfectly. If you had one message to someone who's wanting to wake up or they're in the beginning phases of it, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, it would be along the same lines, which is like study your uniqueness. Like
Mm.
I'm such a whenever I try to put down individuation, understanding our individuated wirings, like I fully believe that there's no one size fits all way, or that I fully believe that no external system, no guide, no guru, no leader has the authority on truth. And that while there are universal truths and universal energetic truths, you are a unique constellation of the whole, and you are the authority on your life and your truth. And this is not you playing God. I want to make that really clear. I fully believe in a co-creative experience with you and divine, that there is divine outside of you, but you are a microcosm of the macrocosm. But my one message would be learn yourself to be able to trust yourself and to be able to trust how you uniquely receive truth. It's going to be different from me. It's going to be different from Carlin. And the more that you decondition and shed the layers that are not yours, the easier it will be to be a match for truth in all aspects of your life, for the connections that are actually meant to support you, for serving your gifts in the world in a way that feels really, really good. Yeah, study yourself, study your energy, be open to that expanding and shifting all the time. I don't want to say something like love yourself, but like know that you are you're a unique fractal of this larger thing. In human design, we talk a lot about fractals and how you need to be playing out your unique individuation to be your right part of this larger puzzle, but only you can play that part. And so instead of looking at other people's, wishing to be like other people or other people's parts, to really, really know that you have a way that's going to feel really good and should feel way easier. Like your way is going to be the easiest for you and the hardest for everyone else. It's going to be like the easiest for you. If I was trying to be you, there's no way I couldn't. But the more that I actually like surrender into the ease of the gifts that I continue to receive, or that I was just given, I'm in the right place. I'm around the right people. I'm serving, I'm magnetizing the people that I'm meant to uniquely serve. And so yeah, learn yourself. Individuation, study your individuation, and then watch as life opens.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Katie. If
Thank
people want to find you, how can they connect with you?
Yeah. On Instagram, I'm at Katie Calder _. I'm also at Human Design Lady. My website is katiecalder.com, where all of my offerings, courses, sessions, classes, teacher trainings can be found there. And there'll be some new things and collaborations and opportunities to connect and work with me soon. And yeah, I'm super, super grateful so fun to talk about things that I haven't spoken about in this type of format in a really long time. So Carlin, I really appreciate your wisdom and your hold and your creating this platform.
Thank you, Katie. And I'll put links to all of her socials and her website in the show notes and in the description. This was such a fantastic conversation. I can't wait to hear what people think because it's just a wonderful journey that you've been on. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much.